Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. It's great to have you with me here today. Can't wait to get into our weight loss and wellness Wednesday topic, where, of course, we're always talking about metabolism, but really what we want to approach it from is a whole body health perspective. That's because there are so many weight loss plans out there right now, but unless they are addressing the underlying root cause reasons why you are not able to lose the weight or keep it off, you will never be able to permanently relax, breathe, and enable your metabolism to take over. That means this: if you are always pounding the pavement at the gym and exercising multiple hours, many hours a week, if you're always counting every single calorie and macro, and you can't ever take a step back, that's telling me that you're walking a tightrope on a daily basis. And I'll tell you, for the long term, that's when you're going to start to gain the weight back, because nobody can keep up that type of a regime forever. So what I want to do is I want to look at deep inside of the body. What would it be that's holding you back from enabling you to boost your metabolism so that even if you take a day off from the gym, and even if you have a cheat meal, that you don't just start to gain 3, 4, 5 pounds back in a day or two? So that's what we're going to go over today, but it's not just about weight loss, because a lot of the same symptoms caused by the same issue have to do with poor sleep and anxiety, and basically daytime fatigue, not nighttime fatigue, not when you should be getting ready for bed, but daytime fatigue and brain fog, anxiety, dry skin, thinning of the hair, a loss of the outer edge of the eyebrow, thinning even of the eyelashes or eyelashes falling out, higher cholesterol on your lab work, a little bit maybe of hoarseness of your voice, lowering energy, stamina, libido, and of course, the issues with the inability to keep the weight off. So the reason I bring up this topic is because there's so many men and women, but predominantly women out there struggling with subclinical thyroid issues. And what that means is this: is a subclinical thyroid issue means that it's not diagnosed as a disease, but it does not mean that the thyroid is functioning optimally. So that means you're going to get the dry skin, the thinning hair, the difficulty concentrating or brain fog, trouble sleeping, anxiety, the difficulty with recall, even poor circulation, cold hands, cold feet, and of course that inability to keep the weight off. So I want to focus on this today, because even if your doctor says that there's nothing wrong with your thyroid, I want them to make sure that they're looking at all the numbers and the stage that you are in. So today, what I'd like to do is take you through the different stages of thyroid-based disorder, because you're most likely not going to end up at stage 5 right away. Of course you're not, right? It doesn't happen. It doesn't progress that quickly. I've gone through this with the adrenal glands before. There's 3 main stages of adrenal-based issues. We call it HPA dysfunction, or people call it adrenal fatigue. There's 7 main sub-stages, but there's 3 main stages of adrenal-based issues. Well, there's actually 5 with the thyroid. They're not difficult. You'll be able to quickly take you through them, and then you will then have the power to take back control of your health, because we'll give you multiple methodologies to figure out where you're at. Now, symptom-wise, if that symptoms list sounded like you, well, then there's an excellent chance that you may have a subclinical thyroid issue, and we'll explain what that is. And again, subclinical means this, just simply put, it means that your TSH is within the normal range. Now, I'm using normal, and you can't see me right now, but if you could see me at my desk right here in my office in Boston, you'd see me with little air quotes up, normal, right? Normal in conventional medicine. Well, normal in conventional medicine is really looking at between 0.5 and 5 international units per milliliter. Now, that does not mean optimal. All that's telling you is that you don't have hypothyroidism, low thyroid, that I just gave the examples of, or hyperthyroidism. Now, people with hyperthyroidism would have more of the anxiety and weight loss-based issues rather than the ones that I just spoke about. We're going to focus on the hypothyroidism today, which is the low thyroid, because that's the majority of what we see in our practice. So much so, and it's hard to believe, but these statistics are absolutely dead on, is that 1 in 8 women will develop thyroid disease. I'm not even talking about subclinical thyroid issues. I'm talking about end stage, meaning like 4th, 5th stage thyroid-based issues. We'll go over what that is. And again, not counting subclinical issues, which I would say, I would venture a guess by the time many women get to their later 30s, we're looking about maybe a third with thyroid-based issues, meaning non-optimal thyroid. So they can't lose the weight and their mind body's affected. And women, and I mentioned this before, but women are 7 times more likely than men to develop thyroid-based disease. More than 20 million women diagnosed, just in the United States. But that wasn't just diagnosed. That means their TSH fell outside of that 5, right above a 5 international units per milliliter. And again, the American Thyroid Association, they estimate that over 60% of people are unaware that they have any thyroid imbalances in the first place because they never connect the symptoms that I just went through with you to a thyroid-based disorder. And all they ever run with their doctor is their TSH. And if you run their TSH, and even if it says a 4, then their doctor is going to say everything's okay because it's not out of range. Even an endocrinologist will say it's not out of range. So that means we'll just keep an eye on it. That's what they say. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll wait and see. Well, why should you have to wait and see, or wait for optimal health, or wait to boost your metabolism, or wait to improve your circulation and cholesterol? There are levels to this. And yes, the surface level is TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone that you run on a blood lab. That's the surface level. But if you want to peel back the onion, you're going to start to see how multiple layers within the body affect the thyroid. And I've done a bunch of shows on thyroid now, many shows on thyroid. We can help to link some of those up. This week in the Integrative Health Practitioner Level 2 course, I'm taking everyone through the Thyroid Adrenal Hormone Lab, and we're going deep on it. I mean, we're really showing people there's always a reason why. I can't stress that enough. There's always a reason why. Even when we don't even know yet. Again, we don't know. We can't figure it out. There's still a reason why. We just haven't uncovered it. Now, there are different specialties that we can look at, right? And that's why I didn't believe that there was one best form of medicine. Let me take that back. I actually believe there was one best form of medicine. People don't know this, but I studied all over the world to find the one best form of medicine. I did not realize what I would uncover along the way, like most people do, right? And your mind changes if you're open to it along the way. When I studied Ayurvedic medicine in Sri Lanka and India multiple times, I was looking for Ayurveda, or the part of Ayurveda that said this would be it. This is all I would need to do with people. And then I realized of obviously how powerful it is and where some things that could be improved, such as lab testing. And then I studied traditional Chinese medicine. And I said, well, maybe it's herbalism and it's acupuncture and it's other things within Chinese medicine that would be the answer. And I said, all of these are useful. The meridians are absolutely useful. The herbs are definitely useful. But there are some things that we can improve upon as well, because acupuncture is not going to, no matter what people say, it's simply not going to get rid of your SIBO. It's just not. It's a great adjunct, and it works amazingly well for nervous system-based issues, which will help especially if your SIBO is being caused by stress and anxiety, because that ileocecal valve won't stay closed. Well, acupuncture can help with that, but it's not going to get rid of that bacterial overgrowth. There are more efficient ways to do that, but that's the nice thing. We don't have to use just traditional Chinese medicine. We can use all of them combined. So instead of me taking you through my entire pilgrimage of studying all over the world, we'll keep it as this. What I realized was there is no one best form of medicine. Every form of medicine. That's why, I laugh when conventional medicine says, oh, we don't believe in that. We don't believe in that. Well, who are you to say you don't believe in it? Like, what makes you the highest power out there? As far as I'm aware, conventional medicine's really only been around for a century. And you're saying that 6,000 years of recorded medical history doesn't count? That somehow pharmaceuticals trump everything? It's not going to happen. It will never happen, especially since every decade we find how barbaric a lot of these treatments are. And we look back and we say, oh, wow, that was crazy. We would never do that today with all of our wisdom and knowledge. Well, we do it every decade, right? We look at it like, oh, well, yeah, we didn't know that was going to happen. And that's why on the Cabral Concept, I always try to make you aware of all these new trends, many of which do not fit within a normal semblance of balance. And so all I'm trying to bring with the Cabral Concept is the concept of achieving equilibrium, of balance in your life. And that's what it's all about. So when I see people push really far in one direction, I know that in the long run, that can never be the answer. In the short term, to give yourself a heroic push, maybe, but only if there's a long-term plan. And so that's what I see with the thyroid. Even giving someone a medication for the thyroid, as you're about to see, is only masking much deeper problems that will begin to spread through the whole body at stage 5. So let's go through those stages right now. So the very first stage is having a genetic predisposition. So I want to give this the due that it's deserved. A lot of people say, oh, it's genetic. Everyone in my family had Hashimoto's. Everyone in my family had low thyroid. Or everyone in my family had rheumatoid arthritis or headaches or high blood pressure or high cholesterol, etc. I give you that. It's in your genetics. Everyone in my family has rheumatoid arthritis. All 4 of my grandparents, both my parents, okay? That's in the genes. Same with diabetes. That's in the genes. Autoimmune issues in general. High total cholesterol, high LDL, low HDL. It's in the genes, right? So I give you that. It's why I got those diseases of the body as a teenager. Now, they happened to me faster, right? Because of other outside situations that I've spoken about. But it's only stage 1. And it never needs to come to fruition. So when I had rheumatoid arthritis and I had type 2 diabetes when I was 17, and I don't have them today, 20 years later, where supposedly I should be unhealthier, right? I should be aging. I should be sick. I should be getting weak and slow. All of those things. But it's not. It's the complete reversal. It's the complete opposite. Now, have my genetics changed? They have not. Same genetics. In Ayurveda, same Prakriti. Different Vikriti. Who I am today is what I've made with my body and my genes. Now, will I always be prone to certain things like mast cell and inflammation? Yes, I'm prone to those. But I've learned how to create a very healthy lifestyle that enables me to stay disease-free. Same with you. So if you have thyroid issues right now, weight gain issues, fatigue, etc., and you say, oh, everyone in my family had that. Okay, I give you that. I get it. I understand that. That's only the first stage. The second stage, and if you read about in the book, The Rain Barrel Effect as well, I talked about 3 stages for every disease implementation, right? Well, it's a little different than what we're talking about today. But in the Rain Barrel Effect, you saw how I took you through. There's the genetic predisposition, there's the environment, which we're going to talk about today, and then there's that triggering event. All right, so if you didn't check that out, definitely check that out in the Rain Barrel Effect. Now, stage 2 of a thyroid imbalance is this. It is what I call the early warning system. There are inflammatory immune markers that are going to be elevated. And if you know that you're prone to thyroid-based issues in your family, look for these ahead of time. I'm going to give you thyroid-specific ones, but important. Look for food sensitivities, especially those to dairy, to gluten, to egg, and even things like coffee, cacao beans. A lot of those can be triggers, eventual triggers for thyroid-based issues. You will see the number 1 correlated food sensitivity with thyroid-based issues, especially Hashimoto's, namely Hashimoto's, I should say, is gluten. The second is dairy. Really important to look at that. So if you have Hashimoto's, and you can even take one takeaway, eat your dairy and gluten very infrequently. And do a food sensitivity test. Extremely important. Check that out. But you will start to see inflammatory markers. For example, if you ran an organic acids test, you might see fungal overgrowth, yeast overgrowth. You might see some bacterial overgrowth. Setting the stage for intestinal permeability. And yes, there are other things. So again, like other triggers for autoimmune-based issues might be heavy metal accumulation. It might be a virus that you got, something that is imbalancing the immune system. And when I say imbalancing, I don't really mean that it's messing up. I mean more that it's over-engaged, it's inflamed, and it's like you let this little bonfire grow out of control by giving it a lot of oxygen and a lot of wood to burn, right? Because now if you have intestinal permeability, the most common form for pushing someone into Hashimoto's would be you have proteins and bacteria seeping out of the gut wall, and then your lymphatic system and your white blood cells are picking it up. And that is now putting the immune system on high alert. And there very well could be a lot of truth to what's called molecular mimicry. And as it's attacking these gluten molecules and these dairy-based particles and bacterial particles and other amino acid strands, that at the same time, it does go after the thyroid, something that does look similar. Or another theory could be very correct as well, is that these bacteria actually attach themselves to the thyroid. We know a few do. Halogen-based groups, like fluoride, like chlorine, like bromine. We know that they do that. So we have toxicities in the body that can lead to thyroid-based issues. Now, you would see those in the body before it ever led to the downfall of the thyroid. Those come first, right? And then you could test for something very specific. And these are called TPO antibodies. It's thyroid peroxidase. You don't need to know that. But TPO-AB is what you would look for on a blood test. You can ask your doctor to run that. Okay, really important. You can ask them to run your TPO antibodies. If you're dealing with any of the symptoms that I mentioned, the brain fog, low mood, low energy, low endurance, low libido, difficulty concentrating, dry skin, thinning hair, losing the outer edge of the eyebrow, trouble sleeping, higher cholesterol, any of these issues, you could just ask that to be run. If you have a good doctor, they're going to be able to run that for you. We have a lab test. I can share that with you at the end, but you're welcome to run the labs anywhere. The important thing is you just run the labs, because when you run a lab, there's no more guesswork involved. It's done. You don't have to guess. You have the numbers right in front of you. So you'll see the TPO antibodies start to go off first for Hashimoto's. That's the autoimmune-based form of low thyroid. Next up, what you'll start to see, or is what you'll begin to see, is an elevated TSH. That's the thyroid stimulating hormone. Now, that's the thyroid number that most doctors will run, okay? But now you know that normal does not mean 0.5 to 5. Normal is 0.5 to 2. 2.5 maximum. So if you get your blood work back and it's a 3, that is a stage 3 sign. That's a subclinical sign. Now remember, subclinical. Clinical being diagnosing disease. Subclinical sign. All right. Subclinical means you do not have hypo, which is low thyroidism, or low thyroid, or Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune low thyroid. Graves' disease would be hyperthyroid autoimmune. So what you can do is now you can say, okay, there's something wrong. My MD, my specialist, may not be able to help me, but now I know something's wrong. I need to take care of this. Because the next step is this. In stage 4, we see a change in the free T4 and free T3 molecules of the thyroid. This is actually what makes up your thyroid hormone. And these are iodine-based molecules. Deiodination is what causes a T4 molecule or molecular structure to change to a T3. One iodine molecule becomes removed. Why is that important? Because that's the most active form that gets used in the cells. So if we don't have active thyroid, if it's not converting from T4 to T3, maybe because of a lack of selenium, and check out my previous podcast on the missing minerals that thyroid needs. I'll link up 2 shows today. The 4 toxins that affect the thyroid and the 2 missing minerals that you'll need to make sure your thyroid functions well. Now, there are more than that, but those are the 2 to start with. B vitamins are essential as well. So on your lab work, if you'll know that you're at stage 4, not if your T4 or T3 were just within range, but I'm going to give you the optimal range right now. T4 should be between 1 and 2 nanograms a deciliter. So T4, free T4, should be between 1 and 2, it can go up to 2.5 nanograms a deciliter. So now you know on that. And for free T3, it should be between 3 and 4 picograms per milliliter. Just think between 3 and 4. Now, the range is much larger. It goes between 2.4 and 4.2. Ideally, it's between a 3 and 4. Free T4 goes from 0.7 to 2.5. Ideally, it's between a 1 and 2 or a 1 and 2.5. It's okay on the higher end, as long as it's converting to T3. All right? So there you go. You have now your numbers to show you what stage you're in. Because if we see your T4 below a 1 and we see your T3 below a 2, we know that there's literally not enough thyroid hormone for you to be optimal. And when you're not optimal, you're going to be suffering from all those symptoms, which is why there are 60% of women are walking around with undiagnosed subclinical low thyroid, all right? Really, really important. Please do pass this information along to people. If they're suffering from these symptoms that we just spoke about, have them run their thyroid numbers. This is not difficult to fix. It's not. The problem is, it's not taught. So if it's not taught, nobody knows how to fix it because they don't even know there's an issue in the first place. Let's move on to that fifth stage. The fifth stage is this. It turns into a full-blown autoimmune issue with extremely elevated TPO antibodies. And you can run other antibodies as well. I'm not saying that you can't run thyroglobulin and others too. It's just TPO antibodies is a very easy one to run. Most lab companies will do it. And what happens is this. When you have hypothyroidism, a endocrinologist or PCP, someone will put you on levothyroxine or some type of thyroid-based drug. And then the issue is this. They're not dealing with the autoimmune issue. And if they do, they're maybe putting you on some type of immunosuppressants. This is a problem. And the reason why it's a problem is that many people with Hashimoto's end up then with other autoimmune issues. They end up with rheumatoid arthritis. They end up with lupus. They end up with type 2 diabetes sometimes. And I'm not saying type 2 diabetes is an autoimmune issue, but it's from a dysregulation of blood sugar, which can absolutely happen with all metabolic-based syndromes, such as those stemming from low thyroid. This is really important to look at because you can't just say, oh, well, I'm on thyroid medication, so everything's fine now. It's not. It's not okay. And the reason why it's not okay is you never corrected the underlying root cause imbalance. And until you correct that, until you look at heavy metals, gut-based dysfunction, leaky gut intestinal permeability, food sensitivities, you are not going to be able to correct those things, which if you did, would then correct the things downstream, which is the subclinical hypothyroidism or the Hashimoto's. And this is why all of us, especially the integrative health practitioners we have going through the course right now in the certification, are out there to teach people more of this information. You, we're just a few people. That's it. So what we need to do is continue to get this information out to people. Because I'll tell you this, giving the body what it needs in terms of rebalancing the thyroid is not difficult. It's not. It's honestly very straightforward and fairly easy. And I hate to say that because it kind of makes it seem like I'm belittling hypothyroidism, but I'm not. You are going to most likely have to reduce cortisol levels and stress. You're going to have to get rid of the candida overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth. You're going to have to seal up the gut wall. You're going to have to see on a hair tissue mineral analysis or another lab if there's any heavy metals. Remove those and then begin to give the thyroid what it needs, B vitamins, tyrosine, selenium, iodine, what it needs to function properly. And when you do that, you remove the toxicities and you replace the deficiencies. You begin to allow the body to rebalance itself. Remember, natural health practitioners and doctors do not cure disease. What they do is they put the body back into position to heal. And when you do that, the body does it on its own. It really does. At no point does any doctor ever heal anything, but it can put the body in position to heal. And the body, through all of its innate wisdom, will take it from there. Hopefully today's podcast has been helpful. Thank you so much for your listens, for your downloads, for your reviews on iTunes. And as always, if this information was helpful, please do feel free to pass this show along to anyone else you believe it could serve. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stephencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.